Yes, my friends, it's difficult to choose the best in the world of the season, right? Perhaps the most open dispute in years and years. But I have a suggestion. Let's get straight to the point because we actually have a best in the world. A golden ball. Individual awards that are very undefined at this point in the season. There's a lot left to happen. You still have titles to be resolved, especially the Champions League, and there's a Euro in the middle of the road that could really change the course of the people who vote. One moment we talk about Bellingham, 1 hour about Mbappe. There are people who talk about Vinicius Jr. The fact is that we have many candidates. Some had excellent moments in the season. Others were more regular, and some shined absurdly, fell a little, and then came back. Others were affected by injuries and performed very well, but their team ended up being eliminated early. For example, De Bruyne, who basically only played half the season. There were people who thought he was in the fight and could be. I have a suggestion for the best in the world, Golden Ball, the best. Today, these awards have become a great script. It is no longer just about individual performance or the best in fact. And also, what would actually be best? What is for me may not be for you. But the scripts have weight, the good stories. We saw Modric when he won the Best in the World award. Clearly, there was a script. We had Messi dividing various opinions, but without a doubt, when he won the Ballon d'Or, and I think the Ballon d'Or was fair, the best was an atrocity. That golden ball rewarded a very specific script. At other times, other players like Lewandowski, Benzema and so on, Cristiano Ronaldo himself has entered this script a few times without necessarily being at his best or having had his best season. Within these scripts, there is one that is very special because it tells a story that has never been seen before and, at the time of this video, unbeatable. Within the context of what we consider to be perhaps the team that plays the best football on the planet, not necessarily the strongest or the most successful, but the one that most enchants people who have been following football, which is Bayer Leverkusen. And within Bayer Leverkusen, we have a figure who stands out for his regularity, excellent numbers, and enchantment. Florian Wirtz, just 20 years old. If you don't know him, I invite you to get to know him, because the kid plays barbarously. Wirtz started on an amateur team coached by his father. He and his sister, who was a little older, played. Wirtz's story is really cool. In the under-15s and under-17s, he was already at Colonia, where he stayed for around 9 years. He was practically trained at Cologne, and then, in the final stretch of the academy, he was signed by Bayer Leverkusen. Remembering that Cologne and Leverkusen have a rivalry, which generated some controversy, but he was very sure of the decision. In the final stretch of preparation, he went to Leverkusen and debuted very early, at 17 years old, very young, and already showed that he had an intensity, quality of reading the game, understanding, passing, arriving in the area and finishing power very different for such a young boy. He was being polished. He had a very serious injury that really hindered his development as that prodigy. This season, the world saw what Wirtz is capable of. We're talking about a guy with 45 games, including games for the German national team, where he's already starting to appear on the lists with 18 goals and 18 assists. We are talking about an attacking midfielder who was involved in 36 goals this season. Does he have the biggest numbers of the season?
No.
In terms of the combination of goals and assists, others have numbers that are as good or even better. For example, Mbappe. Mbappe has a fantastic individual season, but then you question the level of confrontation. PSG has already been eliminated from the Champions League, but France could be champions of the Euros. Harry Kane has fantastic individual numbers at a very high level of confrontation, but in a team that everyone knows is very strong and that lost the Bundesliga to Wirtz's Leverkusen. The numbers are very good. Harry Kane can give England the Euro title, which would take the discussion elsewhere. Vinicius Jr. is playing a lot for real and could win a new Champions League. Bellingham has the whole story of his impact on a first season at Real Madrid that was absurd, and of course all of this will be taken into account. Wirtz won't win the Best in the World award. It's obvious that that won't happen. I'm trying to look at a guy who has top-shelf football, with a top-shelf script, and of all these guys mentioned, who play more or less than him in some context, Wirtz was out from the beginning to the end of the season. He didn't have a bad moment. Wirtz plays practically perfect football this season. If you look at his Bundesliga map, it's a scary deal. Remembering the way Leverkusen plays, normally with Wirtz and Hoffmann behind a striker, he is not the striker alone. You have two number 10s in the Leverkusen team. Xabi Alonso's team plays with very sharp, very offensive wingers, Frimpong and Grimaldo, who also have spectacular numbers. I have no doubt that the best played football of the season, the most fluid, most automatic, but also creative, is that of Bayer Leverkusen. If you take the idea and application, the best of the season is Leverkusen. Within this design, Wirtz is the most different piece, the one that delivers the spice, the imponderable, the unpredictable. Wirtz is a very different player and only 20 years old. We're talking about a guy who still has his whole life ahead of him. Leverkusen has already set a stratospheric price for a possible negotiation of Wirtz. Speaking of team sports, it could be that Wirtz goes somewhere else and it doesn't work out. But in this cut, Wirtz has the best football of the season. We tell stories in clippings. This season, Wirtz has candidate football. And we need to remember that Osimhen has already appeared on the list for what he did for Napoli, and other players in unusual contexts have already appeared on the list. In the last edition, for example, of the Best in the World award, Brozovic was ahead of Vinicius Jr., which is crazy, but he was. If Brozovic has already been recognized on the list to be in the top 10, Florian Wirtz has, I would say, an obligation to be among the 10 candidates for anything. Ballon d'Or, FIFA the best. I repeat, we are talking about a fantastic guy. The way Wirtz pretends to do one thing and does another is rare, difficult, and, in high-level football, necessary. In his one-on-one situation, Wirtz is very good for an attacking midfielder. When he arrives in the area, he is a guy who misses very few goals, has a lot of finishing skills. A special player, man. Really special. Keep an eye out because Germany is trying to reorganize itself after generations of early eliminations in the first phase of the World Cup, a team that failed to respond. There is an obvious transition happening, and Wirtz is clearly part of this transition, delivering a good game, good numbers, results, and the raw aspects of the game. Lots of aesthetics. It's really cool to see Wirtz play. If you've never seen it, watch it. It's late and wrong.